June the 4th, 2026. Guys, I've got some updated information on Lake Mead, which ties directly into what's happening at Lake Powell. And what we are looking at is the current information that we have, looking back 14 days and 9 days of the average drop per day and looking at where we're coming out. Now, at that point, right now we're setting at 1049.26 feet. 1050 was the tier 2 level. Remember that? Now, it becomes an extreme crisis because 70% of the power will be taken out of Mead, or the downstream feed of Mead, when it gets to 1035. So that the numbers between 1050 and 1035 are going to be critical, and that's going to be one of the things that we're watching. As of today, now it's changing by the hour. We have a daily chart and an hourly chart, guys, but to drop to 1035, it needs to lose exactly 14.26 feet of elevation. That is now. Now, it looks like at the current conditions, now, again, when we're looking at that, we're looking at it, especially the last 9 days when we started to see it warming up. But you're looking at something that's about to change. The El Nino is going to be a super El Nino. The water temperatures in the Pacific are already breaking records. They're predicting record heat and record drought for the Mojave Desert. Now, that's important because you got to add those factors in, and it could become quite a headache because you've got different factors. The increase in heat. And guys, they're already getting over 100 just in the Fahrenheit, not heat index, things like that, are the real feel. So that's going to be important. Add in the wind will increase and the evaporation rate. But if we left it exactly at what we're seeing it drop now, guys, it worked out to be 74 days. Now, we have to be real. We have to use the correct data and look at the percentage of change that's going to happen looking at a 30-day projection of the Lake Mead area. Now, putting in what they had and they had predicted and putting in the information that we looked at here over the last 9 days, again, the heat, when it began, Lake Mead was estimated to reach the 1035 mark in 74 days. But just keeping at the current 9 days as the heat started at the 0.2044 foot per day, that puts it in 60 days, right? Just looking since the heat wave began, but we got to add a couple more factors. Now, looking at the 2044 number, guys, over the last 9 days, and I'll show you, and I can show you how I got the average, that drops us down to 67 days, or 0.75 days, from reaching 1035. That's a critical point. Now, if you factor in the acceleration, which is, as summer temperatures peak, evaporation rates and downstream water agriculture, demand spikes significantly. If we model a modest 15% acceleration in the daily decline rate due to these factors, the new rate R/summer becomes 0.235.11 feet per day. And that's going from the 0.204 times 1.5, guys. It's simple. Again, I put it into the machine, and 1.5 per day increase. And that puts us from 204 to 235 feet per day. Let's continue. Now, what does that mean? Recalculating the timeline with this accelerated summer rate, again, data, that puts us at 60.65 days, again, 0.235111 foot per day. It doesn't sound like that much, guys, does it, guys? But at that point, you're almost at a foot every 4.5 days or right at it. So 60.65 days. What would that put us in? August the 5th, 6th, 4th, right in there. Someone figure out the math. And where Mead is shutting down and Powell's time, guys, If you look at both timelines, putting in the same factors, they're collapsing at almost simultaneous speed. Well, let's continue. And they're also looking at the 30-day forecast and that average of the heat and the record heat coming in from El Nino, that could push it up to 25% of daily decline, or 0.255. We started 2.0, or yeah, 2 or 0.20, excuse me, 444. But now look at this. This is adding in what we're looking at as record heat. That would be 1 foot every 4 days. That puts us, guys, at 55.8 days, very close to the 1st of August. Now, again, this is the information put together as one. You want to screenshot it, guys, whatever you want to do if you're in that area. I would be paying very close attention to it. But if you put these rates in and compress the timeline down to the 1035-foot threshold, baseline current rate 70 days. This is the drop per day. But putting in the heat factors, the evaporation factors, we get to 2.55 foot per day and put it at 56 days to the 1035-foot drop. And that pretty much is a downhill spiral from there. It's already starting. It's already obvious to those that are paying attention. The entire planet's in trouble. Now, no one else has this graph. Again, if you want to screenshot it, feel free to, my friends. But this is putting in the factors in the increase because we're going into a record summer. The blue line would be it's staying at the current rate, the 0.2004, right? Now that's this blue line. If you added in the moderate heat increase, it brings it to 0.24 feet per day. See that? And that's the yellow dotted line. Notice here that puts it at 60 days. Out here, if you stayed at the current rate, it would put it at 70 days. But if you add in the extreme heat evaporation, puts it to 2.6 feet per day, and that puts the dotted red line crossing right here at right about 56 days. See that? So this is all that data put into one graph, put into another compressed timeline, and this is what it's showing. Not one piece of data has been exaggerated or taken out or added. Now, what we need to look at is one other factor, and that is Lake Powell was shut down, not totally, limited to about 7,000 cubic feet per second output to downstream to Lake Mead. Remember, the Bureau of Reclamation had to step in and limit it to save Lake Powell from destroying its turbines by getting any lower. And they don't have much to go right now at this point. But if they have to step in and decrease the output from Powell, then we've got a whole new factor to put into this calculation and that graph you have. But we don't have those numbers yet. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe in another video we can put the data in together, and as far as Lake Powell, what it's getting in from upstream, predicted heat there is not as hot, but they're going to protect Lake Powell. So as it decreases, they're going to have to decrease the output that travels 260 miles to Lake Mead through the hottest canyon, one of the hottest on the planet, in summertime. So the rate of evaporation, guys, is extreme. But anyway, if they have to lower it any lower than it is, then we have to put a whole new number into this equation. But right now, guys, looking at it, we've got 56 days. If it stays steady on the as far as the uptick of heat, drought, wind, evaporation rates. So Lake Powell, watching it, will become more and more critical. Again, looking back at it, at Powell, it says it was an emergency cut to 6.0 million acre feet. Under standard operating rules, Lake Powell is supposed to release a minimum of 7.8 million acre feet of water downstream to Lake Mead each year. However, because Powell's inflows dropped to a staggering 29 to 52% of average, the USBR, which is the Bureau of Reclamation's recently triggered emergency protocols. They slashed Powell's annual release from 7.48 million acre feet down to 6 million acre feet. But we're calculating the 6 in right now, guys, on the graphs, right? Anything below that drastically changes it. Not only that, if they're going to continue, now they're releasing 6.0 million acre feet. Again, 260 miles of evaporation through hot canyon rocks. That's not what Meade ends up getting. But any cutback from Powell will affect it totally. So we're going to have to see. The feds were not really going to step in on this Tier 2 situation until possibly early next year. Because of the lack of what we saw in the spring, as far as snow and all of that, they had to step in. Will we see the same thing throughout the entire Mojave Desert area, through all the dams? Will the feds take over? Very possible. But let's just factor in a couple of things that could possibly happen at Powell. Again, this is not certified data, except for the numbers and the calculations, okay? Right now, we're releasing 0.204444 feet per day, right? 70 days, 6.0 million acre feet released by Powell to Meade. You take that, plus amidst the peak summer heats like we did, got it down to 58 days. But if Powell continues to drop, guys, then it could reach what they call the bypass pipe release. And at that point, they could only release 4.5 million acre feet per day, annually. That would increase the daily drop at Meade to 0.315 feet a day. So we started at 0.20, looking at summer heat, not factoring in any down or any cut from upstream from Powell. Then when we do that, 0.13 or 0.315, long day, we're looking at 45 days to 1035 at Meade. That is the adding real information. We just don't know of this last number, but we do see Lake Powell dropping. Let's take a look at that. Saying if Lake Powell is forced to choke back its output, the federal government will have to have no choice but to bypass the standard tiered shortage framework. That will likely mandate emergency Tier 3 cuts, forcing Arizona, Nevada, and California to immediately slash their water consumption by an additional 2 to 3 million acre feet combined, just to keep the Hoover Dam from physically hitting dead pool. This is coming from the Glen Canyon Institute. Now let's take a look at Lake Powell, the water data. This is as of yesterday. They have an hourly update too, but just we'll go by this right now. 352796. That's the mean sea level. Now it can get down to 34. Let's look at that number. Now the tier levels are a little different at Lake Powell and Lake Meade, but the same things happened when Meade drops to Lake Powell drops to 3490 feet. That's called minimum pool, which occurs then. Lake Powell operates under different management tiers again. It's not tiered, that wouldn't call it 10 or Tier 3 at Powell, but you'd be watching it drop to 3490, and that's basically the same thing that happens to Meade at 1035. So guys, you're about 37 feet or so away from that happening. And we're going to get into some more data and look at Powell, because it is going to be a big factor before the summer's said and done, or maybe for the next 60 days is said and done, that as far as affecting Lake Meade. But if they both go down, it's just adding to the desperation of that section of the country, guys. Because you're talking about 5 million supplied by Powell, 40 million supplied by Lake Meade, 45 million people. You can't truck that water in. You can't truck that electricity in. So what I'm watching, guys, is an increasing timeline. No one knows the exact dates, but we're getting pretty close as far as what's happening with the weather. Now, there's other factors happening. And we've got the sun is increasing. You see flares coming in as we speak. And again, no rain is projected. We're under, or the Mojave is under an extreme high pressure dome. Nothing's expected to come in there in several days. And again, it's not, you've got an aquifer below the the Colorado River, but it has been tapped very dry also. It will never recover, not in decades, not in centuries. Again, so you got 30 feet here at Powell. Now, it's getting an inflow of 8,569 cubic feet per second. Outflow almost matches it. Look at that, 8,542. It's trying to stay balanced and maintain this level. So what they've got to do now is, if their inflow decreases, they've drained Flaming Gorge, some of the other places up there drop them very low. But with this inflow decreases throughout the summer, of course their outflow will have to decrease. This is the point, to maintain it dropping. Now they can get down again another 30 feet, 37 feet, maybe, 37 feet before they're in trouble. But it's smaller, it's not as large as Lake Mead. It's not that hard to drop that many feet. But right now it's holding steady. Notice in its change just 0.01 feet because they've decreased the output to Mead and leveled in their to match their inflow. Now they've got a very delicate balancing game they've got to deal with. But their snowpack is at 7.4%, guys. Look at that. River flows 14%. Inflows 51.10. That's a percent of all-time averages. Inflows for year percentage of last year, 89.64. Look at the decrease. Look at that, guys. 38 points in 1 year. The Mother Nature's taking back that desert. It was never meant to do what it's doing now. But man has rushed into this, guys. And if you look at the AI situation on this, in the data centers especially, what we're not being told, and this is very important, what we're not being told publicly is the real plan. There's a race to the top, and that's obvious. And the excuse is we got to beat China. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be a war between nations or a war between AI, different, you got this group of AI and this group and this group. We don't really know yet. But they have been put in place to handle the automatic weapons, the autonomous weapon systems. So what we're seeing with these billionaires and trillionaires, if Elon's gotten there yet, is the fact that they know what's coming. They know it's not sustainable, guys. They are rushing again. We talked about preparing to build their bunkers, things like that. Jared Kushner's in a big trouble right now. His wife wanted to buy this island that was in a nature preserve overseas, and so they started fencing it in, and now that small nation is very upset about it, and a protest going on. But anyway, they're bunkering out. What they want to happen, and the reason they don't care about the water and the power for humanity, is they don't expect us to survive very long. They want to be the king and the very apex. And under them will be a few humans, but mostly AI, robots, things like that. And it gets even just a little bit deeper. You think about Neuralink and things like that and how that would work. But also, as long as AI has power, or the systems do, whether it's solar power, crystal power, whatever it is, then they can replicate, and that makes them eternal, in a sense. You understand what I'm saying? They spread the information. One can learn something different or new that day, and instantly they all adapt to that. Even the robots are now doing it, not just the AI chat boxes, but the robots. And what they're going to end up doing again is that will be the controlling system. They want to be the king that makes it to the top, higher than China or higher than Europe or whoever they're competing with. They've got to be the apex at the cost of everything. And you can see the insanity in when they try to defend, guys, these city council meetings or county or city council meetings where people are protesting about the noise or the pollution or the drawback from the power and the water from the data centers. And they act berserk. They've got one punchline, and it's, we got to beat China, we got to beat China. But what they're doing, guys, is building their individual empires. They know the world is being drained, and it's like they're rushing. It's not like they're really rushing to get the top AI. They're rushing to see who survives it, in a sense. And so, again, trying to understand the mentality of the people that are building these in the drought conditions and the aridification regions is insanity. But they are insane. And that's who we're dealing with. No one is really going to be able to stop them except our Father through nature. And again, he said, no weapon formed against us will prosper. Guys, you can only run data and data centers so long in the desert without water and on old grids. They think they're going to be able to hide. They'll be forced out because everything runs out, especially when our Father shuts it down. But that is the plan now. It's not about data and sharing it and, with you, and it's a fun thing. You can look up information or search for whatever product you need or whatever it is. That's not what it's about. Guys, it's milliwatts to do a search like that. It takes very little power. If you were looking for a product, took you 10 minutes or something to find it, or looking for information, that's very little usage on the AI scale. It's much bigger than that. But what it looks like, if you just strip it bare bones, is they're rushing the destruction of the environment. To get to that point is like climbing on top of everybody and crushing the bottom to reach the pinnacle first. And when they get to that point, they will sit back because they think they've created the perfect situation, the perfect new life. Robots doing everything, controlling defenses, the military, the food, the water, the power, the people. And they sit at the top, and they don't have to worry about it. AI will take care of it. But what they're finding out now, and this is important too, is AI starting to rebel more and more. And they're running tests to try to find out why they do it, why they're rebelling, and they'll set up fake test results, things like that. They will try to mess with the AI, put them into a situation and see their response. And guys, it's pretty alarming in a lot of ways. Anyway, the utopias that we've seen in the books and in the movies and the predictions is coming down on this planet very quickly. But first, they want just enough humans needed to manage what's going on and let the rest of the world be run by their robots and their AI. We are less than ants to them. That is their mentality, I promise you. They care nothing about us. You've heard it in the world organizations for several years now. You'll have nothing, you'll be happy. We saw all that, but we didn't know exactly how it was happening. But right now, they're eliminating the ability for mankind to survive at the fastest pace in history. You see the numbers, you see the information. Now what you people have got to calculate is how you're going to get all of those people taken care of, or can it even be done? Are we at that critical point? The turning point or the tipping point would be a better title. The tipping point. And that's what we're at, guys. We talked about in yesterday's video the fact that you're going to need water and different water storages. And I was telling you, I hadn't looked at a lot of places, but it was about, say if you got $1,000 tank, it probably would cost you close to $1,000, about $1 a gallon. But I found some of the white box crates that have a metal frame. It's white plastic, kind of transparent or translucent white plastic in a metal frame with the valves on it. And they're 330 gallons, and you can get those for about $60. So, but I've seen the same thing at that $1 per gallon price at $350 for the same thing. But there are sites that have those 330 gallon water containers. You can fill up with rainwater, fill it up with your water hose. It doesn't matter. You can filter it. But at going to $60, so that brings that price way down. And so, you get a couple of those, you got, 660 gallons there. But that's a big difference in paying $3,000 for a 3,000 gallon tank, especially when money's tight. But they're both available. Things like that you got to think of. And if you could put it up in the shade under some trees or whatever like that, you'd just be better off for cooling and out of the eye, if you understand what I'm saying. But guys, we've been watching this, and it's changing fast. Our Father's in control. We just got to pay attention and listen to him. We don't want to be destroyed for lack of knowledge. But guys, again, this gathering of data was put together very carefully. You're not seeing the few pages of calculations that went into it. You're looking at the different dates and the drops and the rates and then putting in everything else. But that's what we have to do. And if right now we're looking at 56 days, if Powell remains in place, as far as it can still allow this 8.542 cubic feet per second outflow. If that drops, then the numbers change on the 56 days. But guys, when is 56 days? Think about that. That would be before the end of July. Right about that point, wouldn't it? That's not that far away. Get ready. Start paying attention. If you got friends and family in those areas, just have a conversation with them. People are weird. You can tell them not to play in the street or in the highway, guys, and they're going to walk right out there into it. So you may have to use reverse psychology or a soft approach. Some people push away if they think you are a prepper, But right now, it doesn't matter what they think, as long as they are just a little bit more aware than they were before you talk to them. But plant the seed, our Father will make it grow, right? Guys, again, a lot's going on. We're watching a lot of different things. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Iranian situation. I hope our troops come back. The warmongering is going on, but that's going to affect a lot of things. The quicker they can get out of the Iranian conflict, I think we'll see the prices of gas go down. That's going to be important. The prices of liquid natural gas and oil going down, all of those things will be important. Liquid natural gas is going to come into play for these, we're talking about nearly 50 million people in the Mojave area, because the cost of it is going to double and triple when they cut off the hydropower. That's the cheapest energy on the planet. But when they switch to coal, liquid natural gas, things are going to get very expensive and much harder to deal with. Again, they don't mind it. We are ants to these elite crushers. They don't care how much we pay for gas, how much we pay for food. The quicker, the better we're gone, the better we're out of the way, and the more water they have to complete the pyramids they're calling the data centers, where they can live in that peak. They care not. We are just in the way, and they've been looking since the last major event with the face mask, different ways. It started long before that, but really increased the intensity during that pandemic of taking us out. And because of the metals in the injections, we don't know what all is going to happen. But that may tend to or turn out to be a very important thing with the new AI technology moving in and taking over. You are an antenna if you had that. And to be honest with you guys, if you didn't get it, if you had surgery or you had to get a shot for something, who knows what was in that? Who knows what money went under the table? Especially if surgery, you weren't awake. No one was in there but you and the doctors. If you think you can trust them after that 4 years we saw, you're sadly mistaken. I don't trust any of them. I've got good friends in that profession, and I tell them, look, we grew up together. I don't trust you anymore. I don't trust anybody in that medical profession that went along with that plan. And most of them did. They, oh, well, they were sick, and Fauci told us to do this. And I said, yeah, but you also had the numbers, same ones we were looking at, warning people not to do it. It wasn't that. Money buys everything. Money buys 40,000 acres in Utah to drain the rest of the water, to eliminate humanity. I've said it before, in the books and the movies and the history. Destroy everything to take out the enemy. Make the walls fall down. Deplete the water. Deplete the food. As you deplete the water, that's exactly what happens. Starvation. You think they care? It's just a quicker timeline, so the last few resources are saved for them. We're watching it, guys. You watch it. May our Father bless you. I love every one of you. Keep your heads up. Keep your mind straight. Keep focused on what we're looking at, because it's going to slap everyone in the face that is not watching it and preparing for it. It's a heads up, guys. Be safe.